Actors, let's talk about attention.
Are you paying attention?
You have part of my attention. You have the minimum amount.
In Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, he talks about how being an artist is not just about the act of creation or performance, but rather it's a way of living in the world. A way of living that requires attention to the external world as well as to what's going on inside of you at any given moment. And attention is a tough thing to cultivate nowadays, right? We live in a world that's constantly vying for our attention.
You have all of our attention just by screaming anything.
That's good to know.
You quite literally never have to be bored if you don't want to be. You can always hop on TikTok or Instagram or YouTube and find something to engage those little dopamine machines that we all love so much. There are so many things that can draw us from being present, but as artists, we need to cultivate our attention. However, not paying attention is such an easy trap to fall into. How many times have you been at home watching a movie and you just grab your phone because it's kind of a slow part, so you might as well scroll on TikTok a little bit? Or you have your laptop open as you're watching the movie because you have to do some work too while you're watching. When we do our dishes, we're often listening to music or listening to a podcast, anything to take us out of the present moment. And sometimes it feels like multitasking is necessary to get everything done that we need to in a day. But actually, studies have shown that multitasking is something that is not more effective for the most part. Some people can get away with it for a little bit of time, but usually both projects that we're working on simultaneously are suffering because we're not giving our undivided attention to one of them. There are just so many options and reasons and excuses to tune out from the world, but as artists, we actually have to tune in. Our art, ideally, is a reflection of our heart and our soul. And if we're not tuned in to the world and tuned into our own heart and soul, then how can we possibly express that? When we're so used to listening to YouTube videos or podcasts and getting other people's thoughts, how do we determine how we feel about the world, how we feel about being human, and then how do we share that with the world? Attention is something that allows you to connect to the present moment, and only by paying attention can we become better at acting. This is why so much of the Meisner technique is based off putting all of your attention on your scene partner, right? When all of your focus is on them, you are less self-conscious and you're just reacting off of what they're giving you. That's great and all, but how do we cultivate attention? How do we get better at paying attention? One way to cultivate attention is by practicing meditation.
Meditate perfectly.
There are many different kinds of meditation that you can engage in. I do 2 15 to 20 minute sessions of transcendental meditation every day. Now, some days I miss, of course, but that's always the goal. Basically, I sit down, I close my eyes, I start focusing on my breath first. Just focusing on how long it takes to inhale, how long it takes to exhale. And then I slowly start to introduce a mantra, and I focus on that mantra for the rest of the time. Now, you can try that, or you can find guided meditations on YouTube that make it really easy. You can also just sit down for 5 minutes and just focus on your breath. Focus on inhaling for 4 seconds, exhaling for 8, and maybe even pausing in the middle for 4 seconds. By slowing down and allowing our mind to more or less empty, it can help us connect to the present more, which will help us pay attention. A lot of people find meditation kind of difficult to engage in, and if that's the case for you, just start small. Start with 1 3-minute session every day, and then grow from there. Maybe the next day you try 4 minutes. The day after that you try 5. But just start increasing your time with meditation until you get to about 15 to 20 minutes, at least once a day.
Meditation over!
I've got it.
The next way that we can practice our attention is getting rid of social media.
Wait, are you on Instagram or Twitter?
Hell no.
Except for the acting notes, of course. Make sure you still go on to the acting notes because that is essential for attention.
Liar.
But seriously, apps like Instagram and TikTok, they're designed to steal your attention, to keep you on the app as long as possible. And so if we can get rid of them, that is ideal. However, I know that's not very likely for a lot of people. And in fact, for a lot of actors, it's important that you have some kind of social media presence. So if that's the case, just try to limit yourself to as little amount of time as possible on there. There's a way you can set timers on your phone so that you only have 30 minutes of allotted social media app time a day. And I highly recommend doing that. It doesn't always work. I do it myself. Basically, when you get to the end of that time, a screen will pop up that says you're over your limit. Do you want to use it anyway? And it's pretty easy to just hit, yeah, give me 15 more minutes. But it does help. It at least creates somewhat of a stop block for you to try to recognize when you're just turning to those apps because you're bored, and instead find something more fruitful you can do. Maybe that's reading, maybe that's working on a monologue. But either way, it's something that can hone your attention as opposed to pulling it away.
They're coming out with a new iPhone today, which means all our old phones are going to completely... Damn it.
Another thing we can do to grow our attention is every now and then do something that I like to call a single task day. Basically, this is a day where I only do one thing at a time. So if I'm washing dishes, I'm just washing dishes. I'm not listening to music. I'm not thinking about something I have to do later. I am focused on what it's like to be washing dishes in that moment. When I'm driving somewhere on those days, I don't listen to anything. I don't think about who I'm going to meet or whatever's going on. I just focus on being present and driving. I'm focused on what the steering wheel feels like. What am I seeing out the window? Just about being present. When we experience days like that, it can help us hone our attention even more. Something else we can do to cultivate our attention, especially if we're feeling a bit out of sorts at the moment, or like we're having trouble focusing on something, is a little exercise called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Basically, you're going to take a moment and look around and notice 5 different things that you can see. Then, notice 4 different things that you can feel. Then, 3 things that you can hear. Then 2 things that you can smell. And finally, 1 thing that you can taste. This is something you could do at any time to make yourself more present. Deep listening is another thing that we can do to cultivate our attention. So often when we're in a conversation with someone, we can find our minds drifting away. We're busy thinking about what we're going to say next or something else in the conversation that caught our attention, rather than just listening to the person.
You're not really listening to me, are you?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I could say anything right now, like, you're a complete tool.
Mm-hmm. So instead, when you're having a conversation with a friend or with a coworker, do your best to just listen to them. To not worry about what you have to say, to not worry about trying to be interesting or anything like that. Just listen to them, connect with them. And the more we can practice that, the more that's going to transfer to our work. Because at the end of the day, that's such a huge part of acting, right? Is deep listening to our scene partners and to the moment at hand. So the more we can cultivate that in our day-to-day life, the easier it will be to then translate it to the stage or to camera.
Are you listening to me? I look into your eyes and I can't tell whether you're getting anything I'm saying.
So those are some ways that we can cultivate attention. Remember, being an artist is a way of living, and the way that we have to live is one where we are engaged with the world and engaged with ourselves. Tune in, see how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. An important thing that you can do is see how you're feeling in your body. Are you feeling tension anywhere? Can you relax that tension? But all in all, it comes back to paying attention. So I hope you paid attention to this video, because there is a quiz at the end of the week. And if you don't get 100% on it, then I'm going to punch you. I'll find you and I'll punch you.
I would like your undivided attention, please.
You couldn't handle my undivided attention.
If you have any techniques for cultivating attention, feel free to share them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Justin Powell. Have a great day. Peace.